The episode description for reaching out is a little bit ominous, if you ask me. Amity is going to prove herself to her father through a series of underground witches' duels. The first time I read this description, I said aloud, that's not going to be good for her. And I stand by that. It does not sound like a good idea. Amity is normally the clear-headed one. Despite being a little overly hesitant at times, she has a clear mind for details, and she is normally not one to rush into situations when it's better to take a step back and look at things from a more distant and abstract perspective. She's certainly not the kind of person who seems fitting for these illicit witch duels. It does not seem like an environment that fits her, and it certainly does not seem like one that would be conducive to her general well-being. Luz probably should try to talk her out of this, but considering that Amity is normally the less impulsive one of the two, I don't think that's going to happen. It does make sense that Amity is seeking to prove herself to Alador instead of her mother, considering how acrimonious their relationship seemed to be, Amity and Adelia. We don't know a lot about Alador. I think there have been a lot of hasty judgments made about his moral character from all sides of the fandom, but we will just have to wait for the show to give us a little more about him before we can make a firm judgment. Based on the general ethos of the show, I doubt he's worse than we're expecting, and he's probably better, more compassionate, more thoughtful. The show loves doing this thing wherein a character appears to be evil or selfish or manipulative, and then it turns out they're actually good all along. It did this with Hunter, it did this with Amity herself. It even did this with a few of the minor bully characters like Skara, whom we see in Any Sport in the Storm as having gone over to Willow's side. And the most obvious example is with V, who starts off, when we first see her, as this imposter who has taken Luz's place in her home on Earth, has violated the sanctity of her relationship with her mom. And yet V turns out to be alright, she's just scared and lonely. That's the kind of show this is. There's only been one case I can remember wherein a character has turned out to be even worse than we anticipated, and that is with Balos himself. And even in the case of Balos, aka Philip, who is much more of a jerk than both we and Luz anticipate, there is probably more to him than we were initially presented with. So I don't think Alador is going to be as bleakly opposed to Amity's wishes as Adelia, but that does not mean he should necessarily be trusted, and if Amity seeks to prove herself to him by engaging in some illicit witches' duels that probably would not be best for her emotional and physical well-being, then maybe it's a good idea for her not to try to please him. Now, I'm not saying Amity's a bad fighter. I want to make that clear. She's quite skilled at out-strategizing and out-maneuvering her opponents. She's aware. She's got a sharp mind, a lot of celerity, and she knows how to respond to changing situations on the battlefield, as we see in her fight with Hunter in Eclipse Lake. But she's not a bloodthirsty brawler. She's not normally the kind of person who goes looking for a fight. If anything, she has been too hesitant in the past. So I'm interested to see how they deal with her attempts to balance the new person that she has become with her struggle to free her identity from the impositions of her parents. That has been the major crux of Amity's character since the first time we got to know her, and yet in Season 2, that conflict between Amity and her parents has not received a lot of screen time, despite Amity becoming a main character and appearing in almost every episode. There are a lot of sweet little scenes with her and Luz, but that's about it. And that's not enough for Amity to really feel like she is a commanding character worthy of attention. I love Mae Whitman, and she does a great job voicing Amity. Amity is great in comedic moments, but she has the potential to be an interesting character in dramatic moments when they give her that time in those kinds of situations, but they typically haven't in this show. Amity has completely broken from the overall belief system of her parents. She has dyed her hair explicitly against her parents' wishes. She has taken a stand against the Emperor's coven that her parents serve, and she has generally flouted the overall morals of her parents, which are all about this loyal sense of respectability. And yet Amity has not really faced any consequences for her rebellious behavior from her parents, and that has been a missed opportunity. It's one thing to decide to leave behind the malicious influence of her parents, but it's another thing to live with the consequences of that. Especially if her relationship with her parents is not entirely negative, especially her relationship with her father, who seems to have at least been the better one. There are not simplistic solutions to being stuck in a situation with controlling parents loyal to an immoral authority, like we see Amity in at the start of the show. And I hope the show has a more sophisticated answer than, oh, she just needs to believe in herself more in order to rebel against them like she did. There needs to be more to it than that, or else it'll feel very limp. Amity is one of the few characters in this show who does not have a clearly definable and present conflict with someone else, particularly a family member. Ida has her conflicts with her own parents, especially her father, whom she feels a lot of guilt toward, in addition to her tempestuous bond with Rain. Luz is extremely concerned about the future of her bond with her own mom, since she promised her mom that she would stay on Earth even though she has no desire to keep that promise. Hunter is just a broken mess of tangled neuroses, and King longs to see his father, and he is stuck in the shadow of the images he's constructed about his father. But Amity, even though we've gotten the basic outline of a conflict between her and her parents, and enough information to believe that such a conflict would be interesting to depict, the show has not really depicted it in detail so far. We've only gotten hints of it in flashback sequences, and then a single episode dealing with it in 202, Escaping Expulsion. There has not been enough attention paid to the consequences and the fallout of Amity's rebellion against her parents. I talked about this before Eclipse Lake, an episode that I really adored, but still did not deal with the emotional and psychological fallout of Amity deciding to rebel against her parents. Her parents are likely not thrilled to see the daughter whose image they so carefully controlled rebelling so bluntly and so unapologetically against them. Reaching out is going to, I hope, give us the Blight drama that we've craved, and I hope it delivers on the dramatic potential that scenario offers to us. What is Amity's relationship with her parents like right now? I assume that she's still living with them. She's still a kid, and until she decides to go to the Owl House, which I believe she will at some point, she does not really have another place to go. I assume that her relationship with her parents is very cold and uncommunicative. Everyone's just biding their time, suppressing these violent wells of emotion that are going to come pouring out in a tempestuous, wild explosion very soon. All the bitterness and resentment and egoism is going to boil to the surface, and the status quo will crumble. Amity will have to choose decisively between her parents and the Owl House team, and I believe she will choose the latter. I'm very interested to see how Alador fits into Amity's struggle between loyalty, respectability in her parents, and rebellion, catharsis, and the bond she's formed with Luz and the others. He is not particularly well defined at this point. He is not overtly callous and cruel like Adelia, and he seems capable of being kind and considerate to Amity, even if he is also capable of being quite monomaniacally committed to his family and their entire entitled elite milieu. So, even if Amity's duels go well, and even if her father is not as terrible as he seemed to a lot of people at first, I don't think that she will keep living with her parents in the future. There needs to be a major confrontation, something that matters, something that changes the status quo and brings the simmering conflicts about Amity's character right to the surface. It would make one pay attention to those conflicts. It would draw the spotlight on them in a way that is not easy or simplistic, just like the show has done with the other familial relationships that it has depicted. And it would also give a great chance to show the strength of the bond between Luz and Amity, much more so than all these cute little sweet tee-hee moments the show has given us in recent weeks. Amity will be distraught, and Luz will have to support her, and we will see the strength and the resilience of that bond. We'll see how much that bond means to them. They will stay with each other, of course, I don't doubt that, but the confrontation with Amity's parents is going to be a major challenge to that bond. It is going to shake Amity up. It is going to make her question herself, and Luz is going to have to support her in a situation where there might not be any easy answers, and she's perhaps thinking of her own mother. So I'm really interested to see how the show handles that going forward. So thank you all for watching. If you liked what you saw today, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Donate to my Patreon if you can, and you want to see more videos like this. Keep watching The Owl House. And remember, the Patreon allows you to see videos before anyone else can. It's a major perk. Go check it out if you haven't. And I really hope the show does Amity justice. Anyway, tune in soon for my next analysis. It will be coming soon, that I promise you. Thank you all again. Adios, comrades.